good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and everything in between for those who are watching. My name is Dutchy. This is Dutchy Spills the Tea. Today I am going to be talking about the thin line. Which thin line, you ask? Marketing ethics, particularly in the age of data inference. Let me get on with it. We all know that every click, every purchase, every search, everything you do online leaves a digital footprint. And if you didn't know that, then please wake up. Try to deny it, but you love rom-coms. Your Netflix told us so. But whilst marketers strive to offer personalized experiences, the depth of information that they can infer about us can be both fascinating and alarming. Today, we'll explore the ethical tightrope that they are walking between valuable personalization and invasive profiling. Think about it this way. If I go to your LinkedIn profile, what will it say about you? Sure, you don't have your age up there, but based on your career history, your profile pic, and especially your graduation year, I can pinpoint an age range, if not your exact age. This is data inference. And with enough crossover data points, companies can also make even more assumptions about you, even without that information explicitly available to them. Now, my example with LinkedIn seems simple, innocuous, benign even, but let's just turn up the dial ever so slightly. Let's assume that you have regularly included baby formula or kids' clothing in your shopping. So obviously you have a family or some really strange proclivities, but the type of clothing, the size of clothing, the frequency of baby formula purchases, and the changes over time suggest that you have two children, one currently in potty training and the other wearing dresses that are age 4 to 5 in size. The shop that has been collecting this information was well aware of your pregnancy the first time round, a few years back when you first started buying folic acid off the shelf, and after you increased the size and leisure of your wardrobe. Among other things like that weird peanut butter and anchovy craving that you shopped for during your first pregnancy. Clearly, I have way too much information on you, more than I really need. But it doesn't just stop there. We can also cross-reference some of your online shopping with searches you've been making around health or symptoms to determine that you are diabetic, for instance, and currently on a diet-controlled regimen without insulin, but have struggles with infection. Not to mention that changes in your recent social media status or history have indicated that your more frequent nights out with friends and changing interactions mean that you are now single. Now, this to me, and hopefully to you, is in the realm of the frightening, but you have to be aware that companies already have that kind of information on you, and you often make it as a consumer readily available to them in return for a discount or some sort of value. The thin line in ethics here is therefore not how much data they are collecting, but how that data is being used by companies to offer you more value rather than being overly intrusive. Now, to put this in real terms, a 2019 study by researchers at MIT and IBM found that just 15 demographic attributes from Facebook could be used to identify a specific person with a 99.98% accuracy rate. Obviously, for marketers, this wealth of data is a veritable goldmine. It allows for things like hyper-personalized campaigning, tailored product recommendations, and anticipatory customer service. In fact, a 2018 Epsilon survey found that 80% of consumers are more likely to make a purchase when offered a personalized experience. So, from a business perspective, or from an economic perspective, you can see how collecting and using your data makes total, complete, and unquestioning sense. However, for many consumers, this level of personalization feels invasive. It is sometimes, or often, jarring, and not the least bit coincidental that when you've been thinking about something, a related ad comes up just to entice you. Some of the signals you've been giving are overt, like that time you looked for gardening tools online, and since then you've been hounded by lawn and turf ads that will not leave you alone. Other signals can be completely inferred, however, and they'll leave you wondering what kind of action you actually performed online to prompt that ad for a hot air balloon ride that you've always secretly wanted but never really expressed out loud. But Just think for a second about the alternative here. Companies not knowing what you want. Shooting blind. Advertising is never going to go away. So what would you prefer? That we advertise skateboards for retirees? Or beard wax for a teenage girl? Or German lessons for a native German speaker? How about meat products for vegans? Or even sunscreen for IT professionals? You get my point. Now, I've talked about individual data points, but beyond this, persistent tracking allows companies to build a comprehensive profile over time. And combining this longitudinal data with AI and machine learning unlocks a whole new realm of predictive power. Most competent online organizations will be able to track you by browser fingerprinting, cross-device tracking, or even by linking offline purchases with online behaviors. Once this wealth of data is fed into machine learning algorithms, the kind that would come with a good customer data platform, for instance, the insights become even more powerful and potentially even more concerning or even dangerous. 1. Predictive behavior modeling. AI can forecast future purchasing decisions or life events with startling accuracy. A good example of this is from back in 2014, when a study by researchers at Cambridge and Stanford found that Facebook likes alone could predict personality traits far better than friends and family ever could. How about sentiment analysis? So machine learning algorithms can gauge both widespread public opinion and individual consumer sentiment from social media posts and online reviews, potentially influencing their marketing strategies in real time. Lookalike modeling. So AI can identify individuals who share characteristics with existing customers, substantially improving their targeting. Although maybe one of the most deplorable practices driven by this is dynamic pricing. Machine learning algorithms can adjust prices in real time based on a user's perceived willingness to pay. Have you ever searched for a flight one day and came back to find it 10% more expensive the next? But when your friend searches for the same thing, it's back to the old price? That is dynamic pricing. And it raises ethical questions about fairness, competition, price fixing, and discrimination. Despite this, the combination of persistent tracking and AI analysis creates a positive feedback loop. More data leads to better predictions, which in turn guides the collection of even more relevant data. This cycle does beg the question, however, how far does one go? With the depths of insights available now often far exceeding what users consciously choose to share. Do you need your supermarket to know your political biases? Or would you like your advertising influenced directly by your private social media posts and choices? So, where does one draw the line between acceptable personalization and intrusive profiling? Here are 6 suggested guidelines based on principles from the OECD privacy framework and ethical AI guidelines around the internet from various organizations. 1. Transparency. Companies should clearly communicate what data they collect and how it is used. Now, the EU's GDPR is a step in the right direction on this and currently the gold standard, but there is more to come. 2. Consent. Explicit, informed consent should be required for data collection and use, especially for its sensitive information. 3. Data minimization. Only collect data that's necessary for the stated purpose it was collected for. 4. Purpose limitation. Use the data only for the purposes for which it was collected. 5. The right to be forgotten. Now this one's oft discussed online, but consumers should really be able to request deletion of their data. And then 6. Ethical use. Avoid using data that could lead to discrimination or manipulation. By extension of this, you could talk about marketing based on personal data being a form of manipulation, but perhaps that's a step too far. But consider the well-publicized case of Target, which in 2012 could predict customer pregnancies so accurately that they inadvertently revealed a teen's pregnancy to her father before she'd told him. This incident highlights the need for caution in how inferred data is used and also how things are communicated to consumers and customers. And it isn't an isolated incident. Think Uber's God View or Grable, or perhaps the Cambridge Analytica scandal, or even the Strava heat map debacle, which revealed military bases and secret locations around the globe. If you don't know any of these, give them a quick search, you'll find a plethora of articles around them. Now, more than ever, we are in a binary relationship with enterprises. As consumers, we give custom to producers, retailers, and services. As products, our data is consumed by those enterprises in turn. At times, it can feel like we're in one massive social experiment, boiling down every little aspect of our lives to just data points and predictability. However, it is a condition of humanity that we don't always fit into an algorithm or adhere to the most predictable pathways. The thin line that I've introduced here has not only been crossed multiple times by multiple institutions, but it also hasn't been and probably never will be properly quantified. You should really give it some thought. Marketers must recognize that just because they can infer something doesn't mean that they should use that information, taking steps to protect customers and their privacy, and then in turn their businesses from allegations of data misuse. Consumers, on the other side, need to be aware of their digital footprints and advocate for their privacy rights. I think the future of marketing lies probably not in collecting more data, but in using the data we have more responsibly and ethically. As technology evolves, so too must our ethical frameworks around it and regulations. After all, we're not just zeros and ones in a vast digital playground. We're complex, unpredictable humans who occasionally enjoy outsmarting the algorithms. So the next time you're about to click "I agree" on yet another privacy policy, remember, your data is like your underwear. Best kept covered, and you shouldn't really just hand it out to every person that asks nicely. In the end, perhaps the most revolutionary act in our data-driven world is to be gloriously, infuriatingly unpredictable. So go ahead, buy that garden gnome collection you've always been eyeing. Throw the AI for a loop. It's good for the soul, and it's terrible for targeted ads. Toodaloo.